Arizona is often introduced through its deserts, but the state's most surprising story is told in elevation. Pine forests that smell like vanilla in the sun, volcanic highlands that hold snow well into spring, canyon country carved by perennial creeks, and lakes that appear like blue punctuation marks in red rock. This 7-day itinerary is built for travelers who want mountains, lakes, waterfalls, and the scenic roads that stitch them together. Practical enough to follow, but rich with context so every stop has meaning. Plan this route for late spring through early fall if you want the most reliable access to high country roads and trails with flowing creeks and comfortable hiking temperatures. Early fall adds golden aspens on the Mogollon Rim and crisp nights in Flagstaff and the White Mountains. Winter is beautiful, but changes the rules. Snow can close forest roads, and some hikes become icy. If you're traveling in summer, start hikes early, carry more water than you think you need, and expect afternoon thunderstorms on the high plateaus. Day 1 begins in Flagstaff, a mountain town at roughly 7,000 feet where the air feels immediately different. Use the morning to acclimate and stock up, then take one of Arizona's classic scenic drives, US 89A down Oak Creek Canyon toward Sedona. This road is a geology lesson in motion. Switchbacks descending through limestone and sandstone layers, with Oak Creek running beside you like a ribbon of cold water. Stop at Oak Creek Vista for a wide view into the canyon, then continue to West Fork Trail for an easy to moderate hike that delivers maximum payoff. The trail follows the creek through a shaded corridor of maples and cottonwoods, crossing the water repeatedly. In autumn, it's one of the state's most photogenic walks. In summer, it's a rare, cool refuge. If you want a waterfall without a long hike, plan around the season. Smaller cascades appear after rains, but the more dependable waterfall feel here is the constant movement of the creek itself. Spend the late afternoon in Sedona for Red Rock viewpoints. Airport Mesa at sunset is popular for a reason, but consider the quieter Cathedral Rock area for glowing cliffs and reflections after monsoon storms. Overnight in Sedona, or return to Flagstaff if you prefer cooler nights. Day 2 is about waterfalls in the desert, and it works best if you start early. From Sedona, drive south toward Camp Verde and the Verde Valley, then head to Fossil Creek. This is one of Arizona's most spectacular water places, a spring-fed stream that runs a vivid turquoise, depositing travertine, soft limestone, into terraces and pools. It's also one of the most regulated. The Fossil Creek area typically requires permits and has seasonal closures to protect habitat and manage crowds. Check the current rules before you go, because access changes and the wrong assumption can mean a long drive to a locked gate. If you secure access, you'll find swimming holes, small cascades, and a rare sense of abundance in an arid landscape. If permits aren't available, pivot to a different kind of water experience. Montezuma Well, a limestone sinkhole fed by an underground spring, where water flows out at a remarkable rate into ancient irrigation canals. The Sinagua people farmed this valley for centuries, and the canal system still suggests how carefully water shaped life here. End the day with a scenic drive back up to the Mogollon Rim country, either overnight in Payson for an easy transition, or push on toward Pine and Strawberry for cooler forest lodging. Day 3 follows the Mogollon Rim, the dramatic edge of the Colorado Plateau that runs like a long cliff line across central Arizona. This is rim country, where ponderosa pines stand tall and the land suddenly drops away into desert basins. Spend the morning on Forest Road 300, widely known as the Rim Road, one of the state's great scenic routes. It's largely unpaved in sections and conditions vary, so a higher clearance vehicle helps, especially after storms. The reward is a series of overlooks where you can watch weather move across multiple climate zones at once. For lakes, aim for Woods Canyon Lake and Willow Springs Lake near Payson. Compact forested waters ideal for kayaking, fishing, and easy shoreline walking. For photography, go early when the water is still and the pines reflect cleanly. By afternoon, breezes often ruffle the surface. If you want a short, satisfying hike, the Woods Canyon Lake Loop offers gentle terrain and frequent views. This day is less about a single headline attraction and more about the rhythm of high country travel. Cool air, long views, and the sense that Arizona is bigger than its stereotypes. Day 4 turns northeast toward the White Mountains, a region that feels like an entirely different state. Drive from the Rim area toward Show Low, then climb into Pine Top Lakeside and onward to the high meadows around Greer. Here, Arizona's water becomes more reliable, springs, creeks, and lakes threaded through spruce and fir. Spend the afternoon at Sunrise Park Resort area if you want mountain views without committing to a long hike, or explore the trails around Greer, where the Little Colorado River begins as a modest stream. For a standout lake day, aim for Big Lake in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forests, one of Arizona's premier high-elevation fishing lakes, ringed by forest and often dotted with ospreys. Even if you don't fish, the shoreline is made for quiet walks and wide-angle photos. Nights here are cold even in summer, so pack layers. At this elevation, stargazing can be extraordinary. Day 5 is your waterfall day in the White Mountains, and for many travelers, the emotional peak of the week. From the lakeside area, drive toward White River and the Fort Apache Indian Reservation to reach the trailhead for Hawley Lake, and beyond it, the route to Apache Falls. Access depends on tribal regulations, road conditions, and seasonal rules. This is not a place to arrive unprepared. Check current permissions and respect closures. These lands are living homelands, not just scenery. When conditions allow, Apache Falls is a powerful drop, where water surges through volcanic rock, especially after rains. The sound is immediate and physical. If Apache Falls isn't accessible, choose a reliable alternative. Silver Creek, with its spring-fed clarity and bird life, or explore additional lakes like Rainbow Lake near Pine Top for an easy, family-friendly option. In the afternoon, begin the drive back toward Flagstaff. But consider breaking the trip in Winslow or Holbrook if you want a classic Route 66 overnight and a smoother Day 6 start. Day 6 trades forest for canyon country, but keeps the theme of water in motion. From Flagstaff, head east to the Navajo Nation and Canyon de Chelly National Monument near Chinle. This place is both scenic and profoundly historical. Towering sandstone walls shelter orchards, springs, and dwellings built into alcoves. People have lived here for thousands of years, and the canyon remains home to Navajo families today. Visiting is different from a typical park experience. Many of the most meaningful perspectives come from guided tours led by Navajo guides who can explain the living culture, the farming traditions, and the stories embedded in the land. If you prefer a self-guided day, drive the North Rim and South Rim roads to overlooks like Spider Rock, a sandstone spire rising dramatically from the canyon floor. Water here is subtle, cottonwoods marking the wash, green lines of vegetation tracing seasonal flow. But it's the reason the canyon could sustain communities. Late afternoon light turns the walls warm and textured, ideal for photography. Overnight near Chinle or begin returning toward Flagstaff depending on your pacing. Day 7 brings you back to Flagstaff with one last scenic route that ties the itinerary together, the San Francisco peaks and the volcanic landscapes around them. These mountains are the highest in Arizona, formed by an ancient stratovolcano, and they anchor the skyline like a compass point for northern travelers. Take US 180 toward the peaks for big views and access to the Lava River Cave if you want a short underground adventure. Bring a headlamp and a jacket. It stays cold year-round. For a final lake and mountain pairing, drive to the Kachina Peaks area near Arizona's Snow Bowl for alpine scenery. Then loop back toward town and finish at Walnut Canyon for a brief, steep walk that reveals cliff dwellings tucked into limestone walls. Another reminder that water, shade, and shelter have always shaped where people could thrive. If you still have energy and want a gentler closing, choose Buffalo Park in Flagstaff for a sunset stroll with wide views of the peaks and a sense of how the week's landscapes connect. A few practical notes make this itinerary smoother. Distances in Arizona can be deceptive. Plan for long drives and build in time for viewpoints, weather delays, and permit logistics. Keep a flexible waterfall plan because Arizona's Cascades depend on season, snowmelt, and rain. Some are best after monsoon storms, others are spring-fed and more consistent. Respect tribal lands and regulations, especially in the White Mountains and near Canyon de Chelly. Access rules are part of stewardship and sovereignty. Finally, remember the altitude. Flagstaff and the White Mountains sit high enough to cause headaches and fatigue for some travelers. Hydrate, take it slower the first day, and let the landscape set the pace.
By the end of 7 days, you'll have crossed Arizona by climate and by time. From Red Rock Creek corridors to rim-top forests, from high lakes to thunder-fed falls, from ancient irrigation channels to living canyon communities. It's a route that replaces the single-image Arizona with a more accurate one, layered, elevated, and shaped everywhere by the patient work of water.